Welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of PhotoshopUser TV. I love saying afternoon because it actually is 1 minute after noon.
Very nice.
So we usually do this at 11, and it just sounds weird saying it in the morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Corey Barker, and welcome. I am here today with a slightly concussed Pete Collins.
How's it going, Corey?
Good. How are you?
I'm feeling a little
How have you
rattled.
been?
Doing all right. For those of you who haven't followed along, I was on vacation last week, and on Friday I had a tragic bicycle accident. Got knocked out for a little while, and I'm still a little fuzzy, so you have to cut me a little break if I'm just not quite all there today.
It was really weird because my office is right next to RC's, and I hear RC on his phone, and he's like, the last thing I hear is, well, man, we're glad you're alive. Take care. I'm like, who is he talking to? So I walk over, and he's got a picture on his screen of Pete sitting in a hospital, laying down in a hospital bed with the neck brace on and everything, with his thumbs up like this. He's like,
yep.
I'm like, what happened? So he told me what story would happen, but glad you're doing okay. Yep. He's not altogether there yet. You actually went to the doctor this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, still a little tired, a little fuzzy, but I'm doing all right.
Still a bit loopy, but he's quite the trooper because he's here with us.
And that's how committed I am to make sure that you have Photoshop goodness right there on your computer.
To bring you the very best. We are brought to you, of course, by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the people that bring you that very magazine right there. In fact, the newest issue is just about to come out to you guys. So if you're not a member, be looking for it in your mailbox any day now. But the digital copy is out now, so you'll be able to get that right away. So, but it's been a while. Actually, it's been a while for me because I haven't been in the last few episodes. I was actually at a doctor's appointment the last time we did this. So we're all ill. We're all
ill in the head.
We're all going crazy doing this.
But hey, for the episode, I had to bring out.
He had.
Little Bob Ross, honor of Bob Ross, fluffy white cloud. So hopefully in the next segment, I'm going to do a little ode to Bob Ross. So make sure you come back for the next one and see what's going on. But Corey, let's start out with something with you. Do you have a? I
do. Actually, I got a couple requests, and this is something I actually did a while back because it's a Hollywood thing. Have to do Hollywood. This week is the sequel to the new Expendables movie with Stallone and all those classic action stars from the 80s. You gotta love it. Well, anyway, they did this really cool effect on the poster last time around, and they've kind of done a similar thing this time around, and I got a few people asking me again how to go about doing it, and it's really quite easy to do using smart objects. So let's just go in here. I've got an image of this. Now, when I wanted to start playing around with this, I wanted to find an image of some guns. So when you're looking in stock photography for things like this, I would suggest looking for images that have a group like this. And you can see this is one image that I downloaded, and it's got several different types of guns here that you can choose from. But I'm actually going to only use one. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my lasso tool here and just draw a selection around this little gem right here.
Now, did you get that from iStock Photo or Fotolia? This
actually came from iStock Photos. You can see up top right there, iStock Photo. I use both iStock and Fotolia. They both have a lot of great images. This one actually came from iStock Photo. So I just drew a very loose selection around this particular gun here. Now, here's a cool trick. I'm going to snap the selection to the object by using my Magic Wand tool. And if you hold down the Option key on Mac, Alt on Windows, and click right inside the selection, it'll basically subtract that white area to selection, basically snapping the selection to the gun itself. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
So let's zoom in here because I've actually got a couple of parts that inside the trigger area. We don't need that. And there's actually a couple little areas right in here. So again, I'm just holding down the Option key to click inside there and just subtract that area from the selection. So I'm going to press Command J, and that brings that selected item to its own layer. Now, I'm going to move that out of the way for the moment because we're going to go over here to our working document. Now, I've gone ahead and created this, and you can just see the image size here. It's not too big. It's 9 by 5.5 at 100 pixels per inch. Going to place a guide right in the center. Now, if you don't already have a guide, I actually already put mine there, but if you don't, just bring up your rulers and just drag a vertical guide from the side here, and in Photoshop, it'll just snap to the center when you get close. You can just kind of see it snap there. You can almost,
well, only if you have Snap on.
Only if you have Snap on, which is under the View menu. Go to Snap to, and Guides. Okay, snap to it. So I've got a line right down the center of my document. So I'm going to make a new blank layer and draw a box. Oop, I've got my smart guides on too. I don't actually want those, so let's go and turn those off for the moment. So I don't need those right now. So I've got a selection drawn over that half. New blank layer, I'm going to fill it with 50% gray. Really just a filler color, just it has no real function. So here's where this is kind of cool. Now when I started playing with this, what I want to do is take the gun and kind of fan it out so it looks like a pair of wings, like in the actual poster. Well, I thought if I do that and duplicate each layer each time, that's going to be time consuming. And then I'd have to do it on both sides. So why not do it as a smart object and just flip it around? So going to go ahead and convert this object into a smart object. So you just simply right click or control click on it, convert to smart object. Now let's open up that smart object as a separate document. Now let's go back and get our gun. And we'll take it and drag it into our smart object file here. Now I can see I'm going to have to scale it. So let's just scale it down here and position it right about there. Like that. Now I don't need it in color because I'm going to apply a color effect later on. So I'm simply going to press Shift-Command-U to desaturate the image. Now let's turn off that gray background now. Let me scale that down a little bit more. All right, so now, here's the cool part. I'm going to do a step and repeat. I'm going to press Option-Command-T, which invokes the step and repeat function. And I'm going to take my center target here. Big document, okay. Grab that center target right there and just push it right outside here because I want to repeat on this axis just right outside the document. And then let's just take this and drag that repeat down a little bit, right about there.
And
also,
so, I'm sorry. Yeah. And so what that does is when you pull that out, that little toggle right in the middle says where everything should rotate from. So you moved it out so that now everything would rotate from that point. By
default, it falls in the center of your selected item, but I moved it outside because I want it to rotate outside of the object, not at the center of the object. So again, I'm going to set this up to repeat, but I'm also going to scale it slightly. So I've given it a little bit of a turn and scaled it down. And we'll press Enter. Now, hold down Shift Option Command and then press T over and over again for as many repeats as you want to get. That's probably a little too many. I'm going to get right about there. Okay. So, just basically fans it out, and that's starting to create that little wing effect we saw. Now, in addition to the guns, they also had a knife as part of the graphic. So I've got a knife here. It's a very simple military-looking blade here. And once again, I'm using my same technique. I'm just selecting the background and then just Shift-Command-I to inverse the selection, which I can move the knife around. I'm just going to drag that over as well. Now, no. Okay, I'm almost there.
So now, while you're doing that, you also, just last week, you did a whole thing on the step and repeat over at the PhotoshopUser.com website.
That's correct, yes.
And so if you're not an app member, you need to go over there because he goes more in depth about using the step and repeat, and it is such a helpful shortcut.
It's a really helpful thing, and it's one of those hidden things that, you know, it's not really published that it's in there. It's, in fact, I found out it by accident. From somebody else. So once again, I've got the knife in here in place. I'm going to do the same thing, Option-Command-T. Let's position that target and once again scale it, and then we'll just Shift Option Command T, and we'll just do that. All right, so there is my blade. So I'm going to close this document. Remember, it's a smart object, so I'm going to close it, save the changes, and there is half of my graphic. Now, because it's a smart object, I'm just going to make a duplicate of that single layer, edit, transform, flip horizontal, and there we have our graphic overall.
Very
now,
nice.
Let's add the skull. I've got my cool little skull here because that's what's part of the actual graphic. And we'll just scale that into there. And then finally, to add a color effect over all of it. So I'm just going to go and add a hue saturation adjustment layer here. And I like to use adjustment layers in this case because I'll just apply the color effect here. I'm just going to set it to more of like a gold color. But then because I like an adjustment layer, I can change the blend mode to enhance it even more so. I'm going to change the blend mode to something like linear burn. And we'll drop the opacity down. So we're getting a much more dramatic color effect on that by being able to change that blend mode. And then finally, we can just add our title. Oh, and we have the extractables.
Which right before we started, we argued that we should have changed it to the extra tables.
Extra tables.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's actually the extractables too, because I did one once before. It was actually the extractables. Anyway, there you have it. So the point is smart objects, being able to use them as a design tool. So you're minimizing your work, and that step and repeat allows you to, just create the graphic very, very quickly. And notice it created a new layer each time I did a repeat. If you wanted to have everything on the same layer, keep your object selected when you invoke the step and repeat, and it will keep it on the same layer. Otherwise, it'll create a new layer for each repeat. So there you go.
And make sure you go back and check it on the NAP website for last week. He did a tutorial on that. And it just really helps you get in the mindset of whenever you've got to do something over and over again, even if you've got to move it and adjust it, if you do the step and repeat, it'll save you a lot of time.
And also remember, it will repeat not just the position of the object, but also the scaling of it. It'll scale things up or down, so you can have a lot of fun with it, really experimenting with that step and repeat.
It's great to make all kinds of patterns and stuff like that.
I love it. All right, so the prompter is not moving, so we have no idea what's coming up next. So, Kelby training.
They're whispering Kelby training to us.
They're saying there is no contest on the television.
No, there's a contest on the kelbytraining.com/Epson is giving us a great Epson contest. And we are going to check it out right there.
There you can see, you can enter your chance to win an Epson Stylus Photo R3000. How do you enter? Go to the website and find out. Go to kelbytraining.com again, /Epson.
So just fill that out and you'll be eligible to win one of these great printers.
Epson has the best printers. We know that for sure. All right. Prompter's still not doing anything.
Why don't we take a little break?
Going to go take a break. Take a quick break, and we will be right back. Pete's going to have something. We're going to hopefully get him some painkillers, and he can rejoin us very shortly.
I can't wait to do this again.
Well, we are back, and you just saw a really cool promo for Photoshop World, which is actually not that far away.
It's coming up in 3 weeks.
Just a little less than 3 weeks. So if you've never been, certainly you want to check it out, PhotoshopWorld.com. We've got the best Photoshop World instructors anywhere, and not just Photoshop World instructor. I mean, the event itself is, I just can't explain it. I'm still having fun. I don't know how many I've been to now. I've lost count.
Whether you're a graphic designer, a photographer, any type of creative, you go to this thing and you will be inspired. You'll get to meet and network with people in the industry doing the things that you've seen on TV commercials, everything. It's just an incredible time to go.
There's no boring conversation to be had at this event, and plus it's in Las Vegas. We can't I can't get enough of Las Vegas.
Yeah, if you're into Photoshop, a lot of times you'll be doing something, you're meeting with people, and you're going, yeah, I work with Photoshop, and other people are like, and they turn away. Here, working with Photoshop is a plus. You're going to be around people that do the exact same thing you do, and it's just awesome to
And not to mention, if you go to the PhotoshopWorld.com website, you can actually get a day pass to the expo if you are in the area, not necessarily attending. You can actually kind of get a taste of what it's like to be at Photoshop World. And everybody, those are really busy days because a lot of people come and check it out. I mean, there's classes in the expo, there's just vendors, anybody and everybody in the industry is there.
Yeah, the expo alone, just going and checking out the expo floor with all the teaching, the products, everything going on there is worth it. And you can get a free ticket to come one of those days.
Absolutely. All right. So we have a very special tip from Mr. Trey Ratcliff. He's the Google guru, Google Plus guru guy.
He's knocking it out. He's got some phenomenal stuff. If you check out his website, Stuck in Customs, and he's doing all kinds of stuff with photography and social media. Yep. Make sure you check it out.
So, all right. So are we ready to go to him? Check it out. We'll be right back. Roll that beautiful.
Hi everybody, Matt Klaskowski here again on the Photoshop TV set with Trey Ratcliff, travel photographer, author and writer of the StuckInCustoms.com blog, and just overall kind of nice guy. Not really nice guy. No, I'm just teasing. Trey's a great guy. We've had him in the studio here today to just come down and kind of do some tips for the shows, and we've really enjoyed having you here.
Thanks.
One of the things is that you've got a really, I think, a very unique perspective on photography, and that you're telling a story a lot of times where you're not just showing the photo, but you're telling the story behind the photo, and even you've got some tips to share on the post-processing and whatnot. So, but I think that's pretty neat.
Well, I think as photographers, when we go someplace, we tend to experience the world differently than most people, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, the more you're a photographer, it kind of snowballs, right? You start to see things and you intensify them in your own mind. And you know, really, our brain, we don't store JPEGs like an iPad stores JPEGs, right? We have this rich neural network of scenes, and our eye is darting around. And so when we go to this 2D world of a photo, sometimes if there's something important that you want to enhance and make bigger or more prominent or more dramatic, you have the opportunity to do that. Yeah. Because really, this is just a sorry 2D representation of the real world. And you can short-circuit your way into people's brains if you can take some of these things that are important to you as a photographer that you noticed and accentuate those and bring them out in the final photo. Yeah,
and it's very difficult for people to translate sometimes what we see, because what we see, we feel it. I guess that's a good way to say it, is we feel it too. You know, when we're looking at the scene, there's the air, there's the breeze, there's you know, the color. I mean, so many things that we don't get to see when we see that final photo. And I think that's where Photoshop comes in, is it helps us kind of create what we see.
That's right. And remember, you know, you're a human. You're not a camera. You've had a lifetime.
Oh, I am a camera.
Well, most people, you know, we've had this lifetime of experience that we've brought. And everything that we see and experience, we filter through our own education, our own view of the world. And so when you take a photo, and you want to bring this to other people, you want it to run through your very human filter. You're an artist, and your view of the world is very unique and important. And if you don't watch out, if you just take a photo, it comes back, you look at it, and it's just flat and boring. It almost feels like a courtroom drawing. It's just sort of this anesthetic, clinical view of the world. And you look at it, you go, oh, that's not how I felt. Yeah. So that's why I love Photoshop and all these tools, because they allow you to bring some feeling and emotion and mystery and wonder back into the scene, just like you experienced when you were there.
Cool. So you've got a unique perspective on the Puppet Warp tool for this tip here.
Yeah, it's the Puppet Warp. Yeah, so this is kind of a cool tool, and I'm still experimenting. I do different things with it all the time, but here's one. And when you take a wide-angle photo, which we like to do, I know you're a fellow landscape photographer, sometimes it'll take the middle of the photo and make it awfully tiny, right? And sometimes the most interesting thing is right in the middle of the photo. Yeah. Well, you can use the Puppet Warp tool in kind of a nice way, and in sort of an unexpected way. So,
well, especially with the name Puppet Warp.
Right.
It's not really the tool that you go to when you think landscape.
Right. So Puppet Warp, you get this strange set of triangles. that appear. And what we want to do is we want to put pins in the pin cushion. Okay, I'll put some pins in, and then I'll talk about why I happen to put them in these positions in just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to draw a little set around the part I want to enhance, because I want to make this area bigger and more prominent. These are the Fitzroy Mountains between Argentina and Chile. Okay, but I really like this whole lower area down here. I like how it's stretched out and white, and I like the colors of the rocks, so on and so forth. So I'm going to run another series of pins down here. Okay, and this is sort of my line of demarcation, because I don't want to warp this part. I just want to warp this part. Okay, so by pinning these in, the bottom area will move less than the upper area.
You almost lock it in.
Yeah, you kind of lock it in. Okay, so I can kind of stretch these mountains and make them look as tall and majestic as they really were. Keep stretching them out. Every now and then, you'll notice as you stretch things out, you'll get a little bit of this. You get some of the checkerboard action back there.
Yeah. You
can always drop another pin in and just kind of move that up off, and you can crop later, but I prefer not to. So I'm going to keep stretching out around my my little zone of influence here. And you notice as I pull this down, the lower part of the image doesn't change at all. It's because I locked it in with that police barricade there. Okay, so I'm going to keep stretching these out to just make it a little bit bigger. Not too much, you know, something subtle goes a long way. I'll make this a little taller. And you just hit enter, and it will process it, and then you're done. So you have the before and the after.
Yeah, you can see right in the middle there too.
Yeah, sweet, sweet puppet warp, sweet, sweet Photoshop.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. You were on, we had John in the set before, but we've talked about how it's just one of those tools you don't normally think of. You know,
right?
I'm not going to work on a landscape photo and think puppet warp's the tool I want to go to, but there are so many uses for it in that type of photography.
Well, I think you should allocate a certain amount of Photoshop playtime. Be childlike. If you have kids, it's a great experience to really see how they play with tools they don't know. They go in blind, they start messing with stuff, they click on random tools. You really need to do that with Photoshop. And once you do enter this world of enjoying the post-processing just as much as taking the photos, that's an important line to cross. And I see a lot of people fight against that line. But once you can enjoy, sitting in a nice dark room with a monitor and maybe listening to music and a glass of tea or something, and once this becomes like part of your nightly ritual or maybe a couple times a week, then dedicate some playtime. Go use these tools in a random way. Make a lot of mistakes. In this world that we live in, unfortunately, mistakes are punished all the time. But in the artistic right brain world, mistakes should be encouraged. Because even if you make them all the time, if you correct and iterate, you'll discover amazing things.
And who cares? As long as you get there, who cares how you got there?
That's right.
So, so as far as playtime goes, my kids love Liquify. My kids jump on Daddy, will you open up Photoshop? They take my Wacom tablet, and all they want are pictures of each other. They each want to mess with their brother.
Right.
And they just liquify.
I gave my daughter my
daylights out of each other.
My daughter, I gave her my pen and my Wacom tablet. She's been painting and this sort of stuff, and now I've lost my pen, so I'm gonna get a new pen. Who knows where she puts that thing?
All right. So where can people follow you, find out more about you?
Well, kind of the main Queen Mary of my digital life is stuckincustoms.com. I put up a new photo every day, and I talk about the art and the science behind it. But I'm also very active on Google Plus and Twitter and these sorts of places. Best
thing to do is just go to Google and Google Trey Ratcliff, and I think they'll find all that too.
Yeah, I'm around and about.
Well, hey man, thank you very much for sharing another tip with us. I know everybody out there appreciates it, and we're going to go back to whatever it is we were doing before we got here.
Okay,
I have no idea what that is, but
I'm sure
it's got to be
scintillating, whatever it was and is.
Yeah, thanks again, man.
And we are back. We want to thank Trey for joining us, sharing some of his insights, and be sure to check out his site. It's stuckincustoms.com.
Yes.
Very good, insightful stuff. And be sure to check him out on Google+. We're all on Google+, actually.
Yep.
Every single one of us. So we are pressing on. The slightly concussed Pete has taken his meds and is back to join us with a tip for the day. And I see you have something you brought from vacation.
Yes, besides the BC powder that I just shotgunned, which is quite nasty, but hopefully helpful. Okay, here's the thing. While I was in Wyoming, my wife gave me a frantic phone call, said there's a herd of elk that are out near where we lived. So I jumped in the car with my kids and we went out there, and literally there were at least 100 elk roaming through this area. Now the thing is, it's the middle of the day, and so first of all, I'm going to have to use an extremely long zoom lens to get close because they were skittish, but also the lighting's not going to be that great. There's no way I'm going to be able to get that much of a zoom and get that soft focus that I'd like to be able to use. So this is where in Photoshop CS6, the new blur gallery is going to come in real handy. And this is where a lot of times what I will do is I will go immediately to filter, and I will go to blur, and I will choose iris blur, not Irish blur, but iris blur. But this time when I took a blur. Yeah, just a wee bit of blur. This time, because I knew that I wanted to keep focus on the heads, and they all seem to line up fairly well. That's because I, am such a professional photographer. I kept all their heads in a line. I'm going to use tilt shift instead. And very simply, I'm going to take this tilt shift and I'm going to move it up to where it's giving me the most focus right on these main two deer right here. And then I'm just going to adjust the blending mode, keeping in mind that the center icon is going to be pure focus, or it's not going to have any blur. This middle line here is going to be the transition line from clear to blur. And this is going to be the outer edge where it goes completely blurry from that point on. So I'm on a nice smooth transition, so I'm going to simply tweak these slightly, and then I'm going to give it a little bit extra blur that I might think that I don't necessarily need that much blur, but I'm going to say okay. And the whole thing is, now I can come in, and if it's a little too much, I can go to my fade, and remember, if I haven't done anything else, I can come up with my fade, and it's sort of like an undo on a slider. I'm just simply going to bring this back down slightly, and I'm going to get it where it looks pretty good. And now I've taken a picture that looked okay, but it was middle of the day and it didn't have that much of a depth of field action to it, where I simply apply a quick tilt shift to it in the new CS6 gallery, and it gives it a lot more depth and detail to it. And so that's a great way to rescue a picture that you kind of had to take a snapshot of, and it's not going to look quite have as much pop as before. Just to go in there and use, sometimes you wouldn't think about tilt shift except for maybe creating that fake miniature look. But if you've got an object or things that are on in a line, they don't have to be exactly parallel with the bottom. They could be at an angle or whatever, but you can apply this tilt shift to give you a great sense of depth, going from blurry, clear to blurry real easy, real quickly.
That's the great thing about this blur features, is that we're getting that much more control over blurring. Whereas, you have to blur something, and if you wanted to have certain parts in focus, you'd have to make a duplicate layer and then mask it out or things like that. But you're having that much greater control. And I think you bring up another good point, is that fade feature. The fade has actually been in Photoshop for quite some time. The reason why people tend to miss it is that it's only available, this is the weirdest thing about Photoshop, it's only available after you've applied the filter. Immediately. You can't go and do something else and then go do the fade. You can if you make it a smart object, because it will apply it as a smart filter, and then you can get to that fade feature anytime. But anytime you're doing it to just a normal layer, it's only available right after you do the fade. And it's under the edit menu, so it's a great feature.
And one other thing I would say is, if I had a wish list of what I would add to the blur gallery, is I would like for it to include a vignetting to it as well. When you added that blur, if you could come in and add a little bit of vignetting automatically to it, that would be nice. What I would do, the next step that I would do with this picture, is just maybe bring in a little darkness in the corners and really highlight what's going on in the middle, with these two elk right here. But that's something that hopefully in the future we'll see. But go look at the blur gallery whenever you need to do a little tweak to your images, and it's going to help you take that picture to the next level.
Something for the CS7 suggestion box. All right, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back. We're going to give some stuff away, wrap the show up. Stay with us. We are back.
That was quick.
I was caught off guard there. We are. So welcome back. We are going to wrap things up, but we want to give a few things away here. First, we have some prizes. What we have?
First prize on the docket today is On1 Software Perfect Resize Professional Edition. And if you need to take and resize your images to enlarge them, this is a great set of software for you. And also, from On1, yes, thank you.
I was saying I love On1.
Oh, okay.
Stuff, yeah.
On1 is phenomenal. If you don't have any of the On1 stuff, you definitely need to check it out. This is a great thing. If you win this, try it out. Tell your friends about it.
And just to add to that, if you do, in fact, go to Photoshop World, go to the On1 booth in the expo. They've got fantastic demos, and the guys working the booth are awesome. They're just all very knowledgeable, very approachable guys. Love them. So.
Yeah, the technology they're putting into this stuff is phenomenal. And we also have The Passionate Photographer, 10 Steps Towards Becoming Great. And this is by Steve Simon. And the great thing about this book is that he's giving you some steps to how you can increase your photography skill, how you can create your own voice by giving yourself personal assignments, personal projects, how to hone your skill and your craft to become a better photographer and a better artist. So great book. Check it out by Steve Simon. And
And how do you get these fabulous things? You actually write a note and then put it under your pillow at night. No, go to kelbytv.com/PhotoshopUser TV. Go into the comment section. Just tell us what you'd like about the show, what you'd like to see. Just add anything. And we pick the winners at random, so just enter anything. And you have to say something, though. You can't just put a question mark and then hit enter. So.
And that's the one place you need to leave your comment. You could see this at a lot of different places, but you need to make sure you go to that one place to leave your comment, because that's where it counts.
If you intend on winning a prize, that is how you do it. All right, we want to thank you guys for joining us. If you stay tuned, if you're watching us live, hang out with us for just a little bit longer. We're actually going to be doing the season finale here in just a few moments. So we'll see you in just a minute. Thank you for Trey Ratcliff, of course.
Thanks, Trey. Yep.
Joining us and sharing some tips. And Pete, thank you.
Glad to be here.
We're glad that you've suffered through.
I'm halfway there.
And you're halfway there.
I'm halfway there.
We're almost done. So thank you guys again. We'll see you in just a few minutes or later on, whichever way you're watching. So
take care, guys.